Good morning and welcome. I want you to consider for a moment the nature of a path. When you are born, it seems as though a path is already laid out before you. It is paved by the expectations of your family, shaped by the culture you inherit, and illuminated by the narrow beam of what society deems possible for you. For most of us, for most of our lives, we simply walk this given path. We place one foot in front of the other, our eyes fixed on the ground just ahead, ensuring we do not stumble. We follow its twists and turns, we climb its gentle hills and descend into its shallow valleys, and we rarely, if ever, stop to ask a fundamental question. Who laid this path, and where is it truly leading me? This is not a criticism, it is a diagnosis of the human condition. It is the default state of existence. But the purpose of our time together today is to challenge that default state. It is to suggest, with the full force of a lifetime of observation, that the given path is an illusion. The truth is, you stand not on a paved road, but in an open field of infinite possibility. And the most important decision you will ever make is whether to continue following the faint outline of footsteps left by others, or to summon the courage to chart your own course. There are, fundamentally, only two ways to approach the time we are given on this earth. Only two grand strategies for navigating the years between our birth and our eventual departure. The first, and by far the most common, is the life of default. The second, the one that requires everything of you and yet offers everything in return, is the life of design. Let us first examine the life by default, for we must understand the prison before we can truly appreciate the freedom. The life by default is a masterpiece of subtlety. It does not announce itself with loud alarms or flashing lights. It creeps in silently, disguised as practicality, responsibility, and routine. It is a life of reaction. You wake up and you react to the sound of the alarm clock. You read your emails and you react to the demands of others. You turn on the television and you react to the curated crises and manufactured outrage of the day. You are, in essence, a leaf caught in the currents of the wind, hoping for a gentle breeze and fearing the coming storm. Your primary emotional state is one of passive hope, hoping the traffic isn't bad, hoping the boss is in a good mood, hoping the weekend comes quickly. Hope, as a strategy, is a fool's game. I call this phenomenon the Great Drift. It's the process by which vibrant, ambitious young people, full of dreams and fire, slowly and imperceptibly drift into a life they never would have consciously chosen. How does this happen? It happens through the gentle hypnosis of routine. Monday becomes Tuesday, which bleeds into Wednesday. Weeks become months, months become years, and years become a decade. And one day you wake up, you look in the mirror, and you see a stranger staring back. A stranger who is tired. A stranger who has settled. A stranger who can't quite remember the last time they felt truly, profoundly alive. The drifter, the person living the life by default, has outsourced the most critical functions of their existence. They have outsourced their thinking to the prevailing opinions of the day. They have outsourced their emotional state to the whims of their circumstances. They have outsourced their financial future to an employer and a volatile economy. They have become a passenger in their own vehicle, staring out the window, watching the scenery of their own life go by as if it were a film they have no part in directing. And the defining characteristic of this life, the quiet tragedy of the Great Drift, is the slow assassination of potential. Your potential does not die a dramatic death. It is not executed in the town square. It is quietly, methodically starved to death in the comfortable cage of your daily habits. It is muted by the fear of what others might think. It is eroded by the constant low-grade cynicism that passes for wisdom in our culture. It is traded away, bit by bit, for the illusion of security. The person living by default trades the adventure of the open sea for the perceived safety of the harbor, not realizing that a ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what ships were built for. So you must ask yourself with brutal honesty, are you drifting? Are your days dictated by a series of reactions, or are they guided by a clear and deliberate intention? Is your life an expression of your own deepest values, or is it a performance for an audience that isn't even paying attention? This realization, this moment of honest self-appraisal, is what I call the awakening. It is the critical juncture. For some, the awakening comes through pain, a health crisis, a financial disaster, the end of a relationship. It is the moment when the default path leads you off a cliff, and in the terrifying free fall, you realize that you must learn to fly. Pain is a powerful, if severe, teacher. It forces you to reevaluate everything. But the awakening does not have to come from pain. It can also come from inspiration. A single sentence in a book, a conversation with a mentor, a moment of quiet reflection on a long walk. It is the moment when a new idea takes root in your mind and begins to challenge the very foundations of your reality. It is the quiet whisper that grows into a roar, asking, "Is this all there is?" And the answer, a resounding and life-altering answer, is no. This brings us to the second path, the more challenging yet infinitely more rewarding way. It is the life of design. To live a life of design is to accept a profound and awesome responsibility. It is to declare that you are no longer a leaf in the wind, but the captain of your own ship. Now, this is a critical distinction. To be the captain does not mean you control the wind or the sea. The circumstances of life, the economy, the actions of others, the inevitable march of time, these things are the weather. They are outside of your control. To pretend you can control them is a sign of immaturity. But the mature mind, the mind of the architect, understands the fundamental truth. You cannot control the wind, no man can, but you can and you must learn to set the sail. The life by design is a life of intention. It is a life of purpose. It is the conscious and deliberate act of creating your own reality rather than simply consuming the one that is handed to you. The person living a life of design does not wake up and ask, "What will happen to me today?" They wake up and declare, "This is what I will create today." It is a monumental shift from a passive stance to an active one. It is the difference between being a thermometer, which merely reflects the temperature of the room, and a thermostat, which sets the temperature. To become the architect of your life requires that you first have a blueprint. Can you imagine a builder starting construction on a skyscraper without a detailed, well-thought-out blueprint? It would be madness. The structure would be unstable, chaotic, and doomed to collapse. And yet, is that not how most people attempt to build their lives? They just start hammering away, hoping it all turns out right in the end. The blueprint for your life is a set of clear, well-defined, written goals. It is the vision you have for your health, your finances, your relationships, your personal growth. It is the detailed picture of the person you intend to become. The act of designing this blueprint is the first great work of your life. It requires solitude. It requires deep thought. It requires you to silence the noise of the outside world so you can hear the quiet whisper of your own heart. Once you have the blueprint, you must choose your materials. In the construction of a life, your materials are your habits, your skills, and the information you feed your mind. The architect of a magnificent life is obsessively selective about their materials. They do not build with the cheap materials of gossip, mindless entertainment, and cynical news. They build with the sturdy oak of wisdom from great books. They build with the steel of daily disciplined habits. They build with the clear glass of honest, supportive relationships. And what is the cost of this life? Let us not be naive. The life of design is not the easy path. It is often the lonelier path. When you begin to live with intention, you will inevitably separate yourself from the crowd. When your friends are complaining, you will be studying. When your coworkers are gossiping, you will be planning. When the world is consuming, you will be creating. It requires a willingness to be misunderstood. It requires a level of discipline that the majority of people are unwilling to cultivate. It requires you to trade short-term pleasure for long-term fulfillment. But the reward is incalculable. It is not just about achieving your goals. The true reward of a life by design is the person you become in the process. The achievement of the goal is almost secondary to the growth required to get there. You cannot achieve a worthy goal without becoming a worthy person. The prize is not the $1 million. The prize is the person you had to become to earn it, the discipline, the courage, the resilience, the wisdom. My mentor, a man of incredible wisdom, once told me something that forever changed the course of my own journey. He said, "Profits are better than wages. Wages make you a living, profits make you a fortune." But he wasn't just talking about money. He was talking about a philosophy of life. The wages of a default life are security and comfort, and they will make you a living. But the profit of a designed life, the profit of discipline, of growth, of becoming, that is what will make you a fortune in spirit, in character, and in fulfillment. So the question stands before each of us every single morning. Default or design? Reaction or intention? The path of the drifter or the path of the architect? For the remainder of our time together today, we are going to move beyond the theory and into the practical application. For it is not enough to be inspired by the idea of a life by design. You must be equipped with the tools to build it. A life by design is not a vague, mystical concept. It is a structure. It is a discipline. It is a system. And I have found, through my own studies and experiences, that a life by design is built upon 5 foundational pillars. Get these 5 right, and I assure you, you will not recognize the person you see in the mirror 5 years from now. Get them wrong. And you will also not recognize that person, but for tragically different reasons. These 5 pillars are the essential components of your blueprint. They are the load-bearing walls of the life you intend to create. They are, first, your philosophy. This is the foundation of it all. It is how you think. It is the set of your sail. Second, your attitude. This is the emotional climate you create. It is how you feel about the past, the future, and yourself. Third, your activity. This is the disciplined work. It is the labor of sowing the seeds for your future harvest. Fourth, your results. This is the feedback loop. It is the honest measure of your progress and the teacher of your most valuable lessons. And fifth, your lifestyle. This is the ultimate prize. It is the art of living well, the masterpiece you create with the raw materials of your life. So, if you are ready to stop being a passive passenger and start becoming the architect of your own destiny, if you are ready to trade the comfortable familiarity of the default path for the magnificent adventure of a life by design, let us begin our study. Let us begin with the cornerstone upon which everything else is built, your personal philosophy. We begin then at the beginning. Before the action, before the attitude, before any tangible result can be measured, there is a silent, invisible force at work that governs everything. It is the first cause of all of life's effects. It is the root system from which the tree of your life will either grow strong and bear fruit or wither and become barren. This force, this cornerstone, is our first pillar, your personal philosophy. But what is this thing we call philosophy really? For many, the word conjures images of dusty books and academic debates, something abstract and disconnected from the grit and reality of daily life. This is a profound misunderstanding. Your personal philosophy is not an academic luxury. It is the single most practical, most powerful tool you will ever possess. Quite simply, your philosophy is the sum total of what you know and how you decide to process that knowledge into a guiding set of principles for your life. It is the intellectual and ethical framework you use to make decisions. It is the mental software that runs in the background of your mind every second of every day, determining your choices, your reactions, and ultimately your destiny. In our introduction, we used the analogy of a ship. Let us return to it, for it is perhaps the most powerful illustration I know. The winds of circumstance blow on us all. The winds of economic change, of technological disruption, of personal tragedy, of unexpected opportunity, they are constant and indiscriminate. You cannot change the direction of the wind. To try is to exhaust yourself in a futile and frustrating battle. But you as the captain have at your disposal a magnificent piece of technology, the sail. Your philosophy is the set of your sail. It is how you harness the inevitable winds of life to propel you toward a destination of your own choosing, rather than being pushed toward a shoreline of someone else's design. The great tragedy is that most people are adrift on the ocean of life with a tattered, poorly designed sail, wondering why they never seem to make any progress. They curse the wind. They curse the sea. They curse the ship. They never stop to examine the very tool that is meant to give them power and direction. So, for our study of this first pillar, we must do what most people never will. We must take out our sail, lay it on the deck, and examine it with unflinching honesty. We must understand the anatomy of a flawed philosophy and then learn the architectural principles of a powerful one. Let us first diagnose the disease. What does a weak, ineffective philosophy, the drifter's code, look like? I have found that it is typically composed of 3 toxic threads. The first and most corrosive is the philosophy of blame. This is the philosophy of the external locus of control. The person who subscribes to this philosophy believes deep down that their life is a product of outside forces. Their vocabulary is riddled with a certain phrase, if only. If only my parents had been wealthier. If only my boss appreciated me. If only the government would lower taxes. If only I had a better education. If only is the anthem of the victim. It is the sound of a captain giving his authority away to the wind. Each time you blame an external factor for your lack of progress, you are tearing a hole in your sail. You are willingly, though perhaps unconsciously, surrendering your power. Why? Because if something outside of you is the problem, then something outside of you must also be the solution. And so you wait. You wait for the world to change. You wait for others to be different. You wait for the perfect conditions. And waiting, my friends, is not a strategy for success. It is a strategy for a life of quiet desperation. The philosophy of blame is seductive because it absolves you of the difficult work of self-examination. It is always easier to point a finger than it is to look in the mirror. But the price of this comfort is your potential. You cannot be powerful and be a victim at the same time. You must choose. The second toxic thread in the flawed philosophy is more subtle but just as deadly. It is the philosophy of neglect. This is not about actively doing the wrong thing. It is about passively failing to do the right thing. It is the philosophy of I'll start tomorrow. It is the disease of complacency. The person who lives by this philosophy doesn't necessarily have bad habits. They simply lack good ones. They don't read the book that could provide the one idea they need. They don't take the walk that could preserve their health. They don't have the difficult conversation that could save their relationship. They don't write down their goals. They don't spend that extra hour mastering their craft. Each of these is a small, seemingly insignificant neglect. A single missed day of exercise does not ruin your health. A single evening of mindless television does not destroy your ambition. But this philosophy is a game of accumulation. These small neglects, compounded over 5 years, over 10 years, create a life that is a shadow of what it could have been. Failure is rarely the result of a single catastrophic blowout. It is the inevitable result of a long, slow leak. It is the slow unraveling of a sail, one neglected thread at a time. The philosophy of neglect is the art of slowly, methodically, and almost imperceptibly lowering your own standards. And this leads to the third and perhaps most insidious thread, the philosophy of justification. This is the internal monologue you create to make blame and neglect acceptable. This is the art of lying to yourself and believing the lie. The person who is a master of justification has an excuse for everything. They don't have time to read. They're too tired to exercise. They deserve a break. They work hard, so they should be able to indulge. It's not that bad, they say. Everyone else is doing it. Justification is the anesthetic that numbs the pain of unrealized potential. It is the voice that whispers, it's okay to be average. It transforms the vice of neglect into the virtue of being realistic. It is the philosophy that builds a comfortable cage out of excuses and then convinces you that it is a castle. So you have the trifecta of a failed life. Blame, which gives away your power. Neglect, which erodes your potential. And justification, which makes you comfortable with it all. This is the tattered sail that leaves so many shipwrecked. Now, that is the diagnosis. Let us turn our full attention to the cure. If that is the anatomy of a flawed philosophy, what are the foundational principles of a powerful one? How does the architect begin the construction of a philosophy that can weather any storm and lead to any destination? It begins with a single, non-negotiable axiom, the cornerstone upon which all success is built. This is the principle of absolute personal responsibility. This is the opposite of blame. It is the profound and liberating realization that you are the primary creative force in your own life. You are where you are today as a direct result of your accumulated choices, habits, and responses. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It is all your work. Now, for some, this sounds like a heavy burden, but it is not a burden. It is the ultimate emancipation. It is the key that unlocks your own prison. Why? Because if you are the cause of your current effects, then you can become the cause of new and better effects starting today. If your choices led you here, then new choices can lead you somewhere else. The power was, and always is, within you. Accepting personal responsibility is the moment you take your hands back on the wheel of your own ship. It is the moment you stop shouting at the wind and start adjusting the sail. This single shift is the most difficult and most important work you will ever do. It is the true beginning of a designed life. Once this cornerstone of responsibility is in place, you must begin to build upon it. This requires the second foundation of a strong philosophy, the discipline of deliberate input. Your mind is a garden. And if you do not consciously and deliberately plant the seeds of wisdom, knowledge, and courage, the weeds of fear, ignorance, and self-doubt will grow automatically and effortlessly. They require no cultivation. You must become a fierce guardian at the gate of your own mind. You must be ruthlessly selective about the information you allow to enter. This is a radical act in our modern world, which is designed for distraction and mental pollution. What does this mean practically? It means you must go on a strict mental diet. It means you stop consuming the junk food of celebrity gossip, political outrage, and the endless cynical stream of the 24-hour news cycle. This information is not designed to empower you. It is designed to agitate you, to make you fearful, and to make you a more compliant consumer. In its place, you must consciously feed your mind with the nutrients of wisdom. You must read. Read the books written by those who have achieved what you wish to achieve. Read the biographies of great men and women. Read the ancient texts that have stood the test of centuries, 30 minutes a day. Not for entertainment, but for ideas. A single idea, fully integrated into your philosophy, can be worth a fortune. You must listen, curate your auditory environment, listen to the lectures, podcasts, and audio programs that expand your mind, not the drive time radio that numbs it. Turn your daily commute into a rolling university. And you must be selective with your associations. The people you spend time with are a form of mental input. Their attitudes, their conversations, their beliefs, they seep into your consciousness. You cannot afford to spend significant time with negative, cynical people who live by the philosophy of blame. You must seek out those who challenge you, who inspire you, who hold you to a higher standard. Your philosophy will in time become the average of the 5 people you associate with most closely. Choose them wisely. The discipline of deliberate input is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice of cultivating your mental garden. This leads us to the third foundation of a powerful philosophy, the practice of active reflection. It is not enough to simply take in good information. You must process it, you must integrate it, you must turn knowledge into understanding, and understanding into wisdom. This is done through the lost art of thinking. At the end of each day, or the beginning of each morning, you must set aside time for yourself, 15 to 30 minutes of quiet, uninterrupted time. During this time, you must perform what I call a daily review. You replay the tapes of the previous day. You do not do this for self-judgment or regret. You do this as a strategist, as a captain reviewing the ship's log. You ask yourself a series of honest questions. Where did I act in accordance with my new philosophy of responsibility? Where did I fall back into the old habits of blame or neglect? Did my actions today move me closer to my designed destination, or did I drift off course? What did I learn from my successes today, and more importantly, what did I learn from my failures? What is one thing I can do better tomorrow? This practice of active reflection is how you make course corrections. An airplane flying from Los Angeles to New York is off course 90% of the time. It is the constant small corrections made by the pilot that ensure it arrives at its destination. Your daily reflection is your personal guidance system. It allows you to make small, intelligent adjustments to your sail, ensuring that over the long journey you arrive precisely where you intended to go. So now we have the architecture, a foundation of personal responsibility built upon with deliberate input and refined through active reflection. But how do you know if your new philosophy is working? How do you measure something so seemingly intangible? The answer is the final critical piece of this pillar, and it forms the bridge to everything else we will discuss. This is the litmus test of results. Your philosophy is not an abstract theory. It is a tool designed to produce a result, and the results of your life are the ultimate unbiased judge of your philosophy. You need not argue, you need not defend. You simply need to look. Look at your bank account, look at your physical health, look at the quality of your relationships, look at your sense of inner peace. These are not random outcomes, they are the printout. They are the harvest. They are the direct, unvarnished reflection of the philosophy you are currently living by. If you find your results lacking, you must not complain about the results. That is the drifter's way. The architect, the person of design, understands that to change the fruit, you must change the root. To change the visible, you must first change the invisible. If you do not like the results, you must, with courage and without blame, go back and refine your philosophy. This is why philosophy is the first and most important pillar, because it is the cause of everything else. Your attitude will be a reflection of your philosophy. Your activity will be driven by your philosophy. Your results will be the measure of your philosophy. And your lifestyle will be the ultimate reward for a well-designed and well-lived philosophy. To choose to consciously design your philosophy is, in the end, an act of profound courage. It is the courage to think for yourself in a world that wants you to conform. It is the courage to accept responsibility in a culture of blame. It is the courage to engage in the difficult, often solitary work of building a better version of yourself. It is the moment you stop being a passenger. It is the moment you take command. It is the moment you look at the endless churning sea of life, feel the powerful winds of circumstance on your face, and say with quiet, unshakable conviction, I will set the sail. We have now laid the cornerstone. We have established that your personal philosophy is the set of your sail, the foundational blueprint from which you will construct your life. It is the cause of all of life's effects. But a blueprint, no matter how brilliant, is merely a drawing on a piece of paper. A ship, no matter how well designed, is useless without a capable crew to manage it through the ever-changing seas. This brings us to our second and equally vital pillar, your attitude. If philosophy is the intellectual structure of your life, attitude is its emotional soul. If philosophy is the set of the sail, attitude is the climate you create on the deck of the ship. It is the internal weather system that determines how you experience the journey. You can have a perfectly set sail, but if the climate on deck is one of mutiny, of despair, of cynicism, the journey will be a miserable one, and you are unlikely to ever reach your destination. Now, we must be very clear about what we mean by attitude. In modern language, attitude is often confused with a mood. A mood is a fleeting chemical reaction to an event. It is temporary. It is fickle. An attitude, in the context of a designed life, is something far more profound. It is not a reaction. It is a cultivated perspective. It is not a passing feeling. It is a disciplined orientation of the soul. It is a choice, and it is a choice you make in three critical domains of your existence. For your overall attitude is a composite, a blend of how you choose to relate to three distinct territories: the past, the future, and the present. Let us dissect each one, for within them lie the secrets to forging an unbreakable and empowering mindset. First, we must confront the past. For every human being, the past is a vast and complex landscape. It is filled with victories and defeats, joys and sorrows, moments of wisdom and moments of profound foolishness. The question is not what your past contains, but what you choose to do with it. I have found that people build one of two structures out of the raw materials of their past. They either build a prison or they build a library. The vast majority, those living the life of default, construct a prison. The bricks of this prison are made of regret. The bars on the windows are forged from resentment, and the ghosts of yesterday's failures walk the halls, haunting every present moment. The inmate of the prison of the past is perpetually serving a life sentence for crimes for which they have already been pardoned by the passage of time. Their language is the language of the captive. If only I had taken that other job. I should have never trusted that person. I can't succeed now because of what happened back then. They carry their history not as a source of strength, but as a heavy chain, a ball and shackle that makes every step forward a monumental effort. They live in a state of perpetual nostalgia for the good times, and unending grief for the bad. But both nostalgia and grief, when lived in, are jailers. They keep you locked in a room where the window only looks backward. The architect of a designed life, however, chooses a different path. They take the very same raw materials, the successes, the failures, the heartbreaks, and they build not a prison, but a magnificent library. What is the nature of a library? You do not live there. It is not your home. It is a place you visit with intention and with purpose. You, the architect, are the chief librarian of your own past. You are in control of the narrative. When you need wisdom, you walk into your library and you pull a book off the shelf from the section marked failures. You read a chapter not to feel the sting of the mistake, but to extract the priceless lesson that it taught you. You learn what not to do. You learn the nature of your own weaknesses so you can guard against them. Then you close the book, you place it back on the shelf, and you walk out of the library and back into the present wiser than you were before. When you need confidence, you visit your library and go to the section marked victories. You pull down the book of a past success. You remind yourself of a time you faced a great challenge and you overcame it. You reacquaint yourself with the feeling of strength, of competence, of resilience. Then you close the book, return it to the shelf, and walk back into the present, your shoulders a little straighter, your resolve a little stronger. This is how you must learn to treat your past. It is your personal collection of invaluable case studies. You are the scholar of your own history. Visit it for knowledge, visit it for perspective, but never, ever make it your permanent residence. To own your failures is not to flog yourself with them. It is to catalog them as lessons learned and place them in the archives. This choice to build a library instead of a prison is one of the fundamental acts of a mature and powerful attitude. Next, we must turn our gaze forward and examine our attitude towards the future. Just as with the past, the future presents us with a choice between two distinct landscapes, a dense, disorienting fog, or a clear, detailed blueprint. For the person living by default, the future is a fog. It is an undefined, hazy expanse full of shadows and uncertain shapes. Because it is unclear, it is a source of anxiety and fear. What's lurking in the fog? Layoffs, illness, the unknown. The drifter walks hesitantly into this fog, their arms outstretched, hoping they don't bump into anything dangerous. Their entire orientation is defensive. They are not moving toward a clear objective. They are simply trying to avoid potential threats. This is a life of worry. It is a life of what if in the negative sense. The architect, however, refuses to live in the fog. The architect understands that clarity is power. The architect creates a blueprint. The blueprint for your future is a set of clear, vivid, written goals. A goal is not a wish. A wish is a passive desire. I wish I were in better shape. A goal is an active, creative statement. I will weigh 185 pounds with 15% body fat by December 31st, achieved through disciplined nutrition and strength training 5 days per week. Do you see the difference? The first is a puff of smoke, the second is a steel girder. A well-designed goal acts as a powerful lighthouse, cutting through the fog of uncertainty. It does not promise that the seas will be calm. There will still be storms, there will still be challenges. But the lighthouse provides a fixed, unwavering point of light. It gives you a direction to steer toward, regardless of the turbulent waters. When you know where you are going, the fear of the unknown subsides, replaced by the challenge of the journey. This is the practical mechanism by which you begin to destroy doubt. Doubt is a creature that thrives in the fog. It is the whisper that says you're lost, you don't know what you're doing. But it is very difficult for doubt to survive under the bright, focused beam of a clear objective. You see, belief, true, unshakable self-belief, is not a magical feeling you conjure out of thin air. Belief is a conclusion that you build piece by piece based on evidence. How do you build this evidence? Through action. You must start building a legal case for your own competence, with you as the lead attorney and your doubting mind as the skeptical jury. You start small. You set a goal to wake up 30 minutes earlier every day for 1 week, and you do it. At the end of the week, you present that to the jury. Objection, your doubt might say. That was easy. And you, the attorney, reply, yes, and I did it. Exhibit A. Then you set a goal to read 10 pages of a challenging book every day for a month, and you do it. Exhibit B, you set a goal to save $100. Exhibit C, each promise you keep to yourself, no matter how small, is another piece of evidence. Each completed task is another file in your portfolio of personal proof. Over time, the evidence becomes so overwhelming that the jury of your mind has no choice but to return a verdict in your favor. It must conclude that you are, in fact, a person who does what they say they will do. This is not arrogance. This is confidence born of proof. And it is the most powerful antidote to doubt ever conceived. And so we have addressed the past and the future. But both are useless without the mastery of the third and only real domain, the present. The present moment is the only place you have any power. The past is for learning, the future is for inspiration. But the present is for working. It is the point of performance. And once again, your attitude determines the nature of this space. Is your present a waiting room, or is it a workshop? The life of default is lived in a waiting room. The person in the waiting room is biding their time. They are waiting for 5 p.m. They are waiting for the weekend. They are waiting for a promotion. They are waiting for their luck to change. They are waiting for someone to call their number and tell them it's their turn. Their body is in the present moment, but their mind is elsewhere, either ruminating on the past or daydreaming about the future. The atmosphere in the waiting room is one of low-grade boredom, impatience, and complaint. Complaining is the official language of the waiting room. People complain about their job, their health, their relationships. Why? Because complaining creates the illusion of engagement without the requirement of action. It is a passive activity that reinforces a sense of powerlessness. The architect, however, views the present moment as a workshop. A workshop is a place of creation. It is a place of action. It is where blueprints are transformed into reality. It is where raw materials are shaped into something of value. The architect knows that the magnificent future they have designed can only be built one brick at a time, and the laying of that brick can only happen now. To maintain the productive, focused atmosphere of the workshop, the architect must practice two crucial daily attitudinal disciplines. The first is the discipline of gratitude. Do not mistake this for a soft, sentimental emotion. Gratitude is a powerful strategic tool. An attitude of gratitude is a conscious choice to focus on what you have, not on what you lack. It shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance. When you are grateful, you are resourceful. Instead of complaining about the tools you don't have, you become masterful with the ones you do. Instead of lamenting the opportunities that have passed, you become hyper-aware of the ones that are right in front of you. An attitude of gratitude does not deny the existence of problems. It simply refuses to give them the monopoly on your attention. It is the mental discipline of finding the leverage, the advantage, the lesson in every circumstance. The second discipline of the workshop is the discipline of association. We touched upon this in our study of philosophy, but here we must examine its attitudinal impact. You are like a chameleon. You absorb the emotional and attitudinal colors of your environment. If you surround yourself with people in the waiting room, the complainers, the cynics, the victims, their attitude will infect you like a virus. It is impossible to maintain a positive, creative, resourceful attitude when you are immersed in a sea of negativity. You must, as a matter of survival, protect your attitude. This means consciously choosing to spend your time with other people who are in their own workshops. The builders, the creators, the optimists. The people who hold you accountable and inspire you to be better. Your attitude is a precious, vital asset, guarded as you would guard your life. And so, we see that attitude is not a passive state. It is an active daily discipline. Every morning, you have a choice. Will you visit the prison of your past or its library? Will you wander into the fog of the future, or will you consult your blueprint? Will you take a seat in the waiting room of the present, or will you get to work in your workshop? The climate of your mind is your creation. A powerful philosophy gives you the right map, but a powerful attitude provides the essential fuel for the journey. It is the emotional resilience that gets you through the storms. It is the unwavering optimism that allows you to see the opportunity in every challenge. Without this cultivated attitude, your journey will be a long and arduous one, but with it, With an attitude forged in the fires of discipline and choice, you become an unstoppable force. And it is this force, this combination of clear thinking and powerful feeling, that prepares you for the pillar where the real work gets done. It prepares you for our third subject, activity. We are now at the halfway point of our study. We have laid the foundation with philosophy and set the climate with attitude. If these ideas are resonating with you, if you are feeling a shift in your own perspective, I would invite you to become a part of this community of learners. By subscribing to this channel, you are making a statement. You are saying that you are committed to the journey of personal development and lifelong learning. We will continue to explore these profound subjects together. Now, let us move to the engine of achievement. Pillar number 3, activity. We have now journeyed through the internal landscape. We have established the 2 pillars that reside within the private world of your mind and heart. First, your philosophy, the intellectual framework that sets the sail of your ship. Second, your attitude, the emotional climate you cultivate on deck. With a powerful philosophy, you have your map and your destination. With a powerful attitude, you have the morale and the resilience of a committed crew. You have a magnificent vessel, a full tank of the highest grade fuel, and a clear sky. But a brilliant philosophy and a wonderful attitude on their own are inert. They are potential energy. They are a masterpiece of engineering that remains stationary. The world, you see, does not pay you for your thoughts or your feelings. It does not reward you for your brilliant plans or your positive outlook. The world rewards only one thing, action. This brings us to our third and perhaps most demanding pillar, activity. Activity is the great engine of life. It is the conduit through which the invisible world of thought and feeling is transformed into the visible world of results and reality. It is the bridge between the blueprint and the building. It is the price you must pay for the prize you seek. There are no discounts on this price. There are no shortcuts. The universe is governed by a set of immutable laws, and the most fundamental of these, when it comes to achievement, is the law of sowing and reaping. It is as real and as unforgiving as the law of gravity. It states simply that you cannot reap in the autumn of your life a harvest that you did not sow in the spring and nurture in the summer. You cannot withdraw from the bank of success an account you have not first deposited into through diligent labor. Many people spend their lives wishing for a great harvest while standing in an unplowed field. They hope for a miracle. They wait for a lucky break. But the farmer knows better. The farmer knows that the soil, no matter how fertile, will produce nothing of value without disciplined, consistent, and intelligent activity. This is where we must draw a critical distinction. A distinction that, once understood, will forever change the way you approach your work and your life. It is the distinction between motion and action. The vast majority of people are engaged in motion. They are busy. Their calendars are full. They rush from meeting to meeting. Their email inbox is a flurry of activity. They are constantly moving. But motion is not the same as progress. A rocking horse is in constant motion, but it never moves forward an inch. A hamster on a wheel expends a great deal of energy, but it ends its day in the exact same spot it began. Motion is the illusion of productivity. It is being busy for the sake of being busy. It is organizing your to-do list for the 10th time. It is reading about a new workout plan instead of doing the workout. It is attending a meeting to plan for the next meeting. Motion makes you feel like you are working, but it does not move the needle. It does not produce tangible results that align with your deepest goals. It is the great deception of the modern professional world, a world that rewards the appearance of effort as much as, if not more than, the reality of achievement. Action, on the other hand, is something entirely different. Action is intelligent, focused, and deliberate activity. It is motion with a purpose. It is the specific and calculated effort that is directly linked to the blueprint you designed in Pillar 2. Action is the lever that moves the world, not the frantic running that keeps the hamster wheel spinning. The life of default is a life of frantic motion. The life of design is a life of focused action. So the question becomes, how do we escape the trap of the hamster wheel and begin to apply the powerful force of the lever? How do we become a person of effective action? The answer lies in cultivating what I call the architect's method of activity, which itself is built upon 3 foundational disciplines. These are the pillars within the pillar. They are consistency, priority, and intensity. Let us first examine the discipline of consistency. Success is not a sprint. It is not the result of one heroic superhuman effort. You will not build your enterprise or your fortune in one glorious 18-hour day of work. That is a fantasy. Success is the slow, steady, and often unspectacular culmination of small, intelligent actions performed with relentless consistency day in and day out. I call this the ant philosophy. Have you ever observed an ant? It does not concern itself with grand gestures. It simply finds a crumb of food and begins the long journey back to the anthill. It does this over and over and over again. All summer long, it works. Not because it is motivated or inspired on any given day, but because it is programmed for consistent action. It understands that winter is coming. You must become like the ant. You must fall in love with the process of showing up. The person you will be in 5 years is not the result of what you do on the one day you feel inspired. It is the result of what you do on the 100 days you do not. Consider the stonecutter hammering away at a large rock. He strikes it 100 times and not so much as a crack appears. Yet, on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. Now, was it that final blow that did the work? Of course not. It was the cumulative effect of all the blows that had come before. Your daily disciplines are those blows. Reading 10 pages of a good book, making 5 extra sales calls, writing 500 words, going for a 30-minute walk. Each action on its own seems insignificant. It produces no immediate, dramatic result, and this is why most people quit. They lack the faith and the patience to trust in the power of accumulation. They strike the rock 5 or 10 times, see no crack, and walk away, declaring that the rock is unbreakable. The architect knows better. The architect understands that consistency is the engine of compound interest applied to personal growth. Your daily disciplines are the small deposits that, over time, grow into a fortune of skill, health, and wealth. You must learn to value the process of the daily swing, trusting that the 101st blow is on its way. The second pillar of intelligent action is the discipline of priority. You live in an age of infinite distraction. Your attention has become the world's most valuable commodity, and every corporation, every algorithm, and every media outlet is in a relentless war to capture it. If you are not fiercely intentional with your focus, it will be stolen from you, moment by moment, until your entire day is gone. This battle is waged between two opposing forces, the urgent and the important. The urgent screams for your attention. It is the ringing phone, the vibrating notification, the breaking news alert, the coworker at your door with a quick question. The urgent is loud, demanding, and often masquerades as important. It gives you a hit of adrenaline. Responding to the urgent makes you feel needed and busy. It keeps you on the hamster wheel of motion. The important, on the other hand, whispers. The important are the activities that are directly aligned with your long-term blueprint. Writing the book, building the business plan, learning the new skill, having the deep connecting conversation with your spouse. These activities rarely have an immediate, pressing deadline. No one is screaming at you to do them. And so they are tragically easy to postpone. I'll get to it when I have more time, we say. But more time never arrives. The architect of a designed life must become a master of distinguishing between these two forces. And they must have the wisdom to identify the important and the courage to be ruthless in saying no to the merely urgent. How is this done practically? I suggest a simple but powerful strategy. Win the morning. The first 1 to 3 hours of your day are your most precious. Your willpower is at its peak. Your mind is at its clearest. And the world has not yet begun its daily assault on your attention. You must build a fortress around your mornings. This time is sacred. This is the time you dedicate without compromise to your most important task. Not email, not social media, not the news. You work on the one activity that, if done consistently, will have the greatest impact on your long-term success. Before you give your day to the world, you must first give the best of it to your own design. If you win the morning, you win the day. And a life is nothing more than a collection of well-won days strung together. The third and final pillar of intelligent action is the discipline of intensity. It is not enough to be consistent and to work on the right things. The quality of your attention during the work matters profoundly. To simply go through the motions is not enough. Consider a magnifying glass and a piece of paper on a sunny day. The broad, unfocused sunlight will warm the paper, but it will do nothing more. But if you take that same sunlight and focus it through the magnifying glass onto a single point, it will soon begin to smolder, and then it will burst into flame. Your attention is that sunlight. Spread thinly across a dozen tasks, it is weak and ineffective. It is mere motion. But when you focus that same attention with laser-like intensity onto a single important task, you create the conditions for a breakthrough. You start a fire. This is the practice of deep work. It is the ability to concentrate without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. This is where you create real value. This is where you solve complex problems. This is where you produce work that is difficult to replicate and therefore highly rewarded. To do this, you must create a sanctuary of focus. This is a designated time and place where you are unreachable. The phone is in another room, all notifications are off, the door is closed. For a block of 60 or 90 minutes, you give the task at hand the full, undivided power of your mind. This will be uncomfortable at first. Your mind, conditioned for distraction, will rebel. It will crave the novelty of a new email or a social media update. This is the moment where you must embrace productive pain. The mental strain you feel when you force yourself to concentrate is the feeling of your brain building new muscle. It is the feeling of growth. You must learn to distinguish the destructive pain of burnout from the constructive pain of intense focus. And so we have the architect's method. The consistency of the ant applied to the priorities of the architect with the intensity of the focused sunbeam. When you integrate these three disciplines, your relationship with work begins to change. You learn to embrace the process. You stop working only for the outcome, the paycheck, the promotion, and you begin to find a deep and profound satisfaction in the effort itself. You learn to love the feeling of a day well spent. You find joy in the mastery of your craft. When you learn to love the process, you become unstoppable. You are no longer dependent on the fickle winds of motivation. You do not need to feel good to do the work. The work itself is what makes you feel good. You have built a self-reinforcing engine of achievement. And it is this engine, this disciplined, intelligent, and relentless activity that takes the ethereal concepts of philosophy and attitude and hammers them into the steel of reality. It is the sowing of the seeds. And every seed that is sown must by law produce a harvest. This brings us inevitably to our next pillar. For all of this activity must be measured, it must be accounted for. We must now turn our attention to the scoreboard of life, your results. We have now navigated the demanding terrain of our first three pillars. We have laid the foundation with philosophy, establishing the set of our sail. We have cultivated the internal climate with attitude, ensuring the morale of our crew, and we have engaged the engine of creation through activity, the disciplined labor of sowing and nurturing. We have done the internal work. We have performed the external labor. Now comes the moment of truth. Now we must step back from the field, away from the workshop, and confront the consequences of our efforts. This brings us to our fourth pillar, the one that deals not in theory or in effort, but in cold, hard, undeniable reality. This is the pillar of results. So what is the purpose of a result? Is it a reward, a punishment, a final grade on our performance? No. The purpose of a result is far more valuable. A result is a teacher. It is a guide. It is the most honest and unbiased feedback mechanism the universe has to offer. I want you to imagine your life as a grand laboratory. Your philosophy is your hypothesis. Your attitude is your mindset as the scientist. Your activities are the experiments you conduct. And your results are the data that comes back from those experiments. The data is not good or bad. It is not kind or cruel. It is simply true. The results in your life are an unblinking, unemotional mirror. Your bank account is a mirror reflecting your financial habits and philosophy. Your physical health is a mirror reflecting your daily choices about nutrition and exercise. The quality of your relationships is a mirror reflecting your level of investment in empathy, communication, and contribution. The great tragedy is that most people spend their lives in one of two futile arguments with this mirror. They either argue with the reflection or they let the reflection destroy them. This is the anatomy of a flawed response to results. Let us examine it. The first flawed response, that of the drifter, is the argument. This is the person who looks at the scoreboard of their life, dislikes the score, and proceeds to argue with the scoreboard. They look at their meager bank account and say, the economy is the problem. My boss is unfair. Taxes are too high. They look at their poor health and say, it's my genetics. I don't have time to cook healthy meals. They are in a perpetual debate with reality. This reaction is a direct symptom of a weak philosophy, the philosophy of blame we discussed earlier. To argue with your results is to declare your own powerlessness. It is an attempt to preserve the ego at the expense of progress. The person who argues with the mirror never thinks to change the face looking into it. And so the reflection remains the same year after frustrating year. The second flawed response is just as damaging but far more insidious. It is the agony of personalization. This is the person who does not argue with the reflection in the mirror. They believe the reflection is a permanent and damning indictment of their soul. They internalize the result as a statement of their intrinsic worth. They look at a failed business venture and conclude, not that their strategy was flawed, but that I am a failure. They experience a rejection in a relationship and conclude, not that the connection was incompatible, but that I am unlovable. This response is a direct symptom of a weak attitude. It is the inability to separate the performance from the performer. This agony is paralyzing. It turns a single outcome into a lifelong identity. It transforms a valuable data point into a devastating judgment. A person in this state of agony becomes terrified of trying again, lest they be served with another verdict on their own inadequacy. And there is a third response, perhaps the most common of all, the ignorance of avoidance. This is the person who simply refuses to look in the mirror at all. They are too afraid of what they might see. This is the person who never opens their credit card statements, who avoids the doctor's scale, who doesn't track their sales numbers. They operate their life in a dense fog of wishful thinking, preferring the comfort of not knowing to the potential discomfort of the truth. But ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is a deferment of pain with interest. The problem you avoid today does not disappear. It simply grows larger and more menacing in the shadows. To refuse to look at your results is to be a captain sailing in the dark with no instruments, hoping you don't hit an iceberg. So, if these are the flawed reactions of the drifter, the argument, the agony, and the avoidance, what is the effective response of the architect? What is the discipline of intelligent review? It begins with the first foundational principle, the separation of self from data. You must come to a profound and liberating understanding. You are not your results, you are the creator of your results. Let me repeat that. You are not your results. You are the creator of your results. Your results are simply the data produced by your current formula, the combination of your philosophy, your attitude, and your activity. If the data is poor, it does not mean the scientist is worthless. It means the hypothesis was flawed, or the experiment was conducted incorrectly. This single mental shift is the antidote to the agony of personalization. It depersonalizes failure. It transforms it from a painful judgment into a fascinating puzzle. Isn't that interesting, the architect says. The strategy I employed produced this undesirable outcome. Let us now figure out why. This is the mindset of the inventor, the explorer, the scientist. It is a mindset of curiosity, not condemnation. Once you have separated yourself from the data, you are ready for the second principle, the forensic audit of failure. When a business goes bankrupt, a team of forensic auditors is often called in. They are not emotional. They do not blame or judge. They are detectives. They unemotionally trace the flow of decisions and money to find the precise point where things went wrong. You must become the forensic auditor of your own life. When you get a result you do not like, a project fails, a sale is lost, a health goal is missed, you must conduct an audit. And this audit must trace the result all the way back through our pillars. First, you trace the result back to the activity. You ask, what specific actions or inactions led directly to this outcome? Did I make enough calls? Did I follow the plan? Was my effort consistent? Was I engaged in mere motion, or was it focused action? This connects your result directly to pillar 3. Next, after identifying the flawed activity, you trace it back to the attitude. You ask, what was the emotional climate that allowed for that ineffective action? Was I operating from a place of fear which led to procrastination? Was it complacency which led to sloppy work? Was it arrogance which caused me to ignore important details? This connects your activity to pillar 2. And finally, the deepest level of the audit, you trace the attitude back to the philosophy. You ask, what is the flawed belief, the error in my thinking that created this attitude in the first place? Do I have a hidden belief that I don't deserve success? Do I have a philosophical blind spot that prevents me from seeing the reality of the situation? This connects the entire chain of events back to pillar 1. Do you see the power of this process? A flawed result is not a random event. It is the final visible symptom of a deep invisible cause. The forensic audit allows you to become a master diagnostician of your own life, finding and fixing problems at the root, not just complaining about the branches. But the discipline of intelligent review is not only for failure. This leads us to the third principle, one that is tragically overlooked, the strategic analysis of success. When people succeed, their typical response is simply relief or celebration. They rarely stop to analyze the victory. They call it a good day, a lucky break, or a moment of inspiration. The drifter attributes success to external forces just as they do failure. The architect knows there is no such thing as luck. Success is a result that was produced by a specific and often replicable formula. You must study your successes with the same forensic intensity as you study your failures. When you achieve a desired outcome, you must conduct the same audit, but in reverse. What specific sequence of activities created this win? Can I document it? Can I turn it into a system? What was the attitude I held that powered these activities? Was it an attitude of bold confidence, of intense focus, of joyful curiosity? How can I cultivate that attitude more often? What was the philosophy that underpinned it all? What was the core belief that allowed me to act with that attitude and produce that result? By analyzing your successes, you move from accidental achievement to intentional replication. You stop hoping for good days and you start architecting them. You identify your winning formulas and you learn how to apply them again and again and on a larger scale. This entire process of review of failure and of success is best understood through a grand, overarching metaphor for life itself. It is the framework of the 4 seasons. Life, like the earth, moves in seasons. To understand the seasons is to understand the rhythm of effort and reward, of challenge and opportunity. First, there is spring. Spring is the season of opportunity. The ground is fertile. It is the time to act, to take advantage of the window of possibility. In the spring of your life, you must plant seeds. You must engage in vigorous activity. You must not delay or procrastinate. To be lazy in the spring is a catastrophic error, for the harvest of autumn depends entirely on the seeds you sow now. When an opportunity presents itself, that is your spring. Seize it. Next comes summer. Summer is the season of relentless effort and protection. Once you have planted your seeds, you cannot simply walk away. You must nurture and protect them. This is the time for discipline. You must pull the weeds of distraction. You must fight off the pests of negativity and doubt. You must water your ambitions with consistent daily labor. You must sweat in the summer. There is no other way. To wish for a harvest without the sweat of summer is the fantasy of a child. Then, inevitably, comes autumn. Autumn is the season of harvest, the season of results. This is the moment we have been discussing. You go to the field and you reap what you have sown. All of it, the good and the bad. In the autumn, you take full 100% responsibility for the crop. If the harvest is bountiful, you celebrate with gratitude and you analyze your success. If the harvest is meager, you gather what you can with quiet resolve and you analyze your failure. You do not blame the weather. You do not curse the soil. You own the harvest. It is yours. And finally, after the harvest comes winter. Winter always comes. Winter is the season of challenge. It is the recession. It is the illness. It is the personal loss. It is the period when the ground is frozen and it seems like nothing is growing. The drifter is destroyed by winter. They complain about the cold. They are unprepared. They starve, both literally and spiritually. But the architect understands the purpose of winter. You do not try to plant seeds in the frozen ground of winter. That is foolish. Winter is not a time for external expansion. It is a time for internal fortification. Winter is when you get stronger. Winter is when you read the books. Winter is when you reflect on the past seasons. Winter is when you sharpen your tools. Winter is when you plan your next spring. Do not wish for no winters. That is to wish for a life without challenge and therefore a life without growth. Wish instead for the wisdom to use the winters of your life to become so strong, so wise, and so well prepared that when spring inevitably returns, as it always does, you are ready to plant a more magnificent garden than ever before. This is the discipline of intelligent review. It is the unemotional, strategic, and seasonal approach to the results of your life. You stop being a victim of your past outcomes and you become a student of them. And the entire purpose of this study, of this constant cycle of action and review, is to refine your formula. It is to become a more effective creator. The purpose is not just to get more. It is to become better. And it is this process of turning failure into wisdom and success into strategy that allows you to build a life of not just accumulation, but of deep and abiding value. It allows you to design a life that is not just successful, but is a work of art. This then is the bridge to our final pillar, the lifestyle. And so we arrive at the destination. We have journeyed through the vast and challenging territories of the first four pillars. We have labored in the architect's office of philosophy, drawing the blueprint for our life. We have cultivated the inner world of attitude, mastering the climate of our own mind. We have toiled in the workshop of activity, hammering our intentions into the steel of reality through disciplined effort. And we have stood in the field of results, learning from the honest harvest of our actions. After all of this, after the thinking, the feeling, the doing, and the reviewing, we must now confront the ultimate question, the one that gives meaning to all the others. For what purpose? Why engage in this difficult, demanding work of designing a life? Why bother with the discipline, the sacrifice, the relentless effort? The answer, my friends, is found in our fifth and final pillar. It is the prize. It is the masterpiece. It is the ultimate expression of a life well lived. This is the pillar of lifestyle. Now, we must be exceptionally careful with this word lifestyle. In our modern culture, it has been hijacked. It has been shrunken and diminished into a shallow caricature of its true meaning. For most, the word lifestyle conjures images of consumption. The fast car, the big house, the exotic vacation, the designer clothes. It has become a synonym for material accumulation. And while those things can certainly be a part of a well-designed life, they are not its heart. They are the frame, not the painting. They are the trimmings, not the substance. To chase after the trimmings while neglecting the substance is the ultimate fool's errand. It is to spend your one and only life meticulously decorating a beautiful, empty room. The purpose of our study today is to reclaim the true meaning of lifestyle. A true lifestyle is not about what you have. It is about how you live. It is not about the quantity of your possessions, but the quality of your existence. It is the art of living well. It is the daily experience of joy, of growth, of meaning, of love. It is the masterpiece you create with the brushstrokes of your daily choices. Before we can paint this masterpiece, we must first understand the illusions that lead so many aspiring artists astray. We must dissect the anatomy of a shallow life, the life that looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. The first illusion is the pursuit of more. This is the belief that happiness lies at the next milestone. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will be fulfilled when I buy the bigger house. I will feel successful when I hit that income goal. This is a horizon that you can never reach. Because the moment you arrive, the moment you get the more you were chasing, the horizon simply moves further away. The promotion comes with more responsibility. The new house comes with a larger mortgage. The higher income comes with new expectations. This is the great hedonic treadmill. You are running faster and faster, but you remain in the same emotional place. The pursuit of more as an end in itself is a recipe for a life of perpetual dissatisfaction. It is a hunger that cannot be sated. The second illusion is the pursuit of approval, or what I call living by the external scorecard. This is the person who designs their life not from the inside out, but from the outside in. Their choices are not guided by their own deepest values, but by a desperate need for the validation of others. They choose a career to impress their parents. They post photos of their vacation to elicit the envy of their friends. Their definition of success is the applause of the crowd. To live this way is to be a puppet, and to allow the opinions of others to be the strings. But here is the tragic secret. The audience you are performing for is mostly indifferent. They are too busy worrying about what you think of them. You are trading your one authentic life for the fleeting approval of a distracted crowd. This is a terrible bargain. To chase approval is to ensure you will never have the one approval that truly matters, your own. The third illusion is the pursuit of comfort, the arrival at the golden cage. This is the ultimate goal for many who are tired of the struggle. They believe the purpose of all their hard work is to finally reach a place where there are no more challenges, no more problems, no more requirements for growth, a place of total ease. And yes, they may achieve it. They may build a cage of financial security and routine so comfortable and so gilded that they never have to strive again. But this golden cage, for all its comfort, is still a cage. The human spirit was not designed for a life of perpetual ease. It was designed to solve problems, to overcome obstacles, to grow. A life without challenge is a life without growth. And a life without growth is a life of stagnation. And stagnation is a form of death. So, if a true lifestyle is not found in the pursuit of more, of approval, or of comfort, then where is it found? It is found in the conscious and deliberate cultivation of what I call the 4 dimensions of a masterpiece life. These are not destinations to arrive at, but directions to orient your life toward. The first dimension is a life of vitality. What is the value of a fortune if you do not have the health to enjoy it? What is the point of a beautiful home if you are too tired and drained to feel any joy within its walls? Vitality is the foundation. It is the raw energy that allows you to engage with the world with passion, with strength, and with enthusiasm. A life of vitality is a direct product of the pillars we have already discussed. It is born from a philosophy that honors the body as the vessel for the mind and spirit. It is fueled by an attitude of respect for your own well-being, and it is built day by day through the disciplined activity of proper nutrition, consistent exercise, and adequate rest. You do not get vitality by chance, you build it by choice. A tired millionaire is poor. An energetic person of modest means is, in a fundamental way, truly wealthy. The second dimension is a life of deep connection. A human being is not an island. A life lived in isolation, no matter how materially successful, is a life of poverty. The true richness of the human experience is found in the quality of our relationships. It is found in love, in friendship, in family, in community. This, too, is a product of design. Deep connections are not found, they are forged. They are forged from a philosophy that values contribution over consumption, that understands that what you give is more important than what you get. They are forged with an attitude of empathy, of forgiveness, of genuine curiosity about other people. They are forged through the consistent activity of investing your time and your presence, the most valuable assets you have, in the people who matter most. You must ask yourself, who are the people in my life that I wish to build a fortress of love and support with? And what is my daily, weekly, monthly plan to invest in those relationships? A life rich in connection is a life that can withstand any winter. The third dimension is a life of meaningful work. This is the dimension that addresses the cry of the human soul for purpose. A job is what you do for a paycheck. Meaningful work is what you do for your soul. It is your craft. It is your contribution. It is the expression of your unique talents in a way that serves others. Meaningful work is found at the intersection of what you are good at, what you love to do, and what the world needs. For some, this is found in building a business. For others, it is in teaching, in healing, in creating art, in raising a family. The form is irrelevant. The essence is what matters. This dimension is the ultimate expression of the discipline of intensity we discussed in our pillar on activity. It is the pursuit of mastery. It is the act of chasing excellence, not approval. It is the profound satisfaction that comes from looking at a piece of work, a finished project, a happy child, a thriving garden, and being able to say with quiet pride, I did that. I made that. I contributed that. A life without this sense of purpose is a life adrift. And finally, the fourth dimension is a life of financial freedom and generosity. Let us be clear, money is important. It is not the most important thing, but it is a vital tool. It is a form of stored energy and value. The goal of a designed life is not to ignore money, but to master it and put it to its proper use, and its proper use is twofold. First, to create freedom. Financial freedom is not about buying yachts. It is about reaching the point where you can make choices based on your values, not just your economic necessities. It is the ability to say no to a project that violates your philosophy. It is the freedom to take a year off to write a book. It is the freedom to spend time with a sick parent without worrying about the loss of income. Money's greatest value is its ability to buy back your time and your autonomy. And second, to practice generosity. The ultimate expression of a successful life is the ability to give back. A lifestyle designed only for your own consumption is, in the end, a small and selfish life. The true architect seeks to build not just a life, but a legacy. A legacy is measured by the problems you solve, the people you help, the contributions you make. The purpose of building a great financial reservoir is not just to drink from it, but to be able to irrigate the fields of others. A life of generosity is, by definition, a life of abundance. So there we have it. Vitality, connection, meaning, and freedom to contribute. These are the four pillars of a masterpiece life. And this brings us to the final and most profound understanding of all, the secret that lies at the heart of a life well lived. The joy is not in the destination, the joy is in the becoming. The ultimate prize is not the finished masterpiece. The ultimate prize is the person you had to become to paint it. The purpose of setting the goal is not just to get the goal. The purpose of setting the goal is to see what it makes of you to achieve it. The discipline, the wisdom, the courage, the resilience you develop along the way, that is the true treasure. The 5 pillars we have discussed are not a static checklist to be completed. They are a dynamic curriculum for personal transformation. It is a system designed to help you become the kind of person who is worthy of a magnificent life. You attract success by the person you become. So the invitation today is not simply to do more or to have more. The invitation is to become more. It is an invitation to leave the crowded, well-trodden path of the life by default. It is an invitation to step into the open field of possibility and to begin the challenging, terrifying, and glorious work of an artist. The raw material is your own potential. The tools are the 5 pillars we have studied. The masterpiece is your life. The marble is there. The tools are now in your hands. The question is, what will you create? We have come to the end of our study together. We have journeyed a great distance from the foundational bedrock of your inner world to the ultimate expression of your life in the outer world. We have stood on the deck of your ship and learned how to set the sail. We have walked through the garden of your mind and learned how to cultivate the soil. We have entered the workshop of your daily life and learned how to engage the engine of creation. We have looked into the unflinching mirror of your results and learned how to read its honest reflection. And we have stood on the balcony of your potential, sketching the masterpiece of a lifestyle truly worth living. But this is not, in fact, an end. It is a commencement. A commencement is a beginning. It is the moment a student, having completed their study, steps out of the classroom and into the laboratory of life to apply what they have learned. And that is the true purpose of our time together. Not just to inform, but to transform. Not just to learn, but to begin. So for this final session, our purpose is twofold. First, we must perform a great synthesis. We must weave the 5 separate pillars into a single, cohesive, living system. And second, we must answer the most important question of all. Where do I begin? Let us first revisit our 5 pillars, not as a simple list, but as a dynamic sequence of creation. We began with philosophy, for nothing can precede thought. We learned that philosophy is not an academic game. It is the act of consciously setting the sail of your ship. It is the deliberate choice to build your life on the bedrock of personal responsibility, to feed your mind with wisdom, and to refine your thinking through active reflection. It is the first and most powerful creative act. From a sound philosophy, a new possibility emerges. This is attitude. Your attitude is the discipline of cultivating the inner climate. It is the conscious choice to transform the past into a library, not a prison. It is the courage to define the future as a blueprint, not a fog. And it is the wisdom to treat the present moment as a workshop, not a waiting room. Your philosophy provides the structure. Your attitude provides the emotional energy. With this potent combination of clear thinking and powerful feeling, you are then prepared for the great work. This is activity. Activity is the discipline of engaging the engine of creation. It is the understanding that success is not born of a single heroic act, but of relentless consistency. It is the wisdom to prioritize the important over the merely urgent. And it is the power to apply focused, intense effort, transforming your potential into tangible value. This disciplined activity will, by immutable law, produce an outcome. This is results. Your results are the courage to look in the unblinking mirror of reality. It is the discipline to separate your self-worth from the data. It is the wisdom to conduct a forensic audit of your failures and a strategic analysis of your successes. It is the humility to learn from the seasons of life, using the winters to grow strong and the springs to plant anew. And the entire purpose of this cycle, this constant refinement of your formula, is the creation of your masterpiece. This is lifestyle. Your lifestyle is the joy of becoming the artist of your own life. It is the ultimate prize, defined not by shallow consumption, but by the four profound dimensions of vitality, connection, meaning, and the freedom to contribute. Now, it is crucial to understand that these 5 pillars are not a linear checklist that you complete one time. They are a dynamic, interconnected, and self-reinforcing system. They form what I call the flywheel of personal growth. Imagine a massive, heavy flywheel. When it is stationary, it takes a great deal of effort to get it moving. The first push is the most difficult. But once it begins to turn, even slowly, it develops its own momentum. And each subsequent push requires less effort but adds more speed until the wheel is spinning with a powerful, unstoppable force. Your life operates on the same principle. The 5 pillars are the 5 key points where you apply pressure to get your own flywheel spinning. Consider this. You begin with a small shift in philosophy. You decide to read one challenging book. From that book, you get a new idea that slightly alters your attitude about your own potential. This new, more optimistic attitude gives you the energy to engage in a new, small activity. Perhaps you start waking up 30 minutes earlier. That small, disciplined activity over a month produces a new result. You feel more in control. You have more energy. This positive result now comes back and powerfully reinforces your philosophy. It provides tangible proof that your new way of thinking works. This is real, you say. I can change my life. This strengthened philosophy supercharges your attitude. This powerful attitude fuels even more ambitious activity. This greater activity produces even more significant results. And this entire accelerating cycle is what allows you to build a magnificent lifestyle. Do you see? It is a feedback loop. Your philosophy drives your attitude, which fuels your activity, which produces your results, which in turn validate and strengthen your philosophy. Each pillar pushes on the others. This is how ordinary people, by making a series of small, intelligent choices, can over time create extraordinary lives. They get their flywheel spinning. But if this system is so powerful, why do so few people engage it? It is because to get the flywheel moving, you must overcome a powerful, invisible force. A force that is constantly working to keep you stationary, to keep you in the life of default. This force is the true enemy of your potential. I call it the gravity of the default. This gravity has 2 components, one internal and one external. The internal component is inertia. Your brain is a marvel of efficiency, and it loves to conserve energy. The easiest way to conserve energy is to repeat yesterday's patterns. Your old habits, your old ways of thinking, your old excuses, they are well-worn neural pathways. They are the path of least resistance. To choose a new thought, to forge a new habit, requires a conscious burst of energy. It is, in a very real sense, a fight against your own biology, which is programmed for comfort and familiarity. The external component is the pull of the crowd. Human beings are social creatures. We have a deep primal need to belong. And the crowd, by its very nature, values conformity over individuality. The moment you decide to design your own life, you begin to separate yourself from the crowd. The moment you start reading while they are watching television, the moment you start saving while they are spending, the moment you start talking about ideas while they are talking about people, you become different. And the crowd often reacts to difference with suspicion, with cynicism, and sometimes with ridicule. Who do you think you are? Why are you working so hard? You should just relax and be normal. This social gravity is incredibly powerful. It pulls on you, begging you to come back to the comfortable, predictable world of the average. To live a life by design is therefore a constant, noble struggle. It is the daily act of generating enough personal power to overcome the gravity of the default. It is the choice to live by intention in a world that rewards inertia. So now we come to the final and most important question. Knowing all of this, understanding the pillars, recognizing the power of the flywheel, and respecting the force of gravity, where do you begin? The answer is both simpler and more profound than you might imagine. You do not begin by changing everything at once. This is the great illusion of the grand start. The person who vows on January 1st to go to the gym, quit smoking, read a book a week, and start a new business, that person is almost always back on the couch by February. It is too much. It is an attempt to lift a mountain, and it leads only to overwhelmed failure and a reinforced belief that change is impossible. You do not need a grand start. What you need is a keystone decision. You need to choose one small, specific, and manageable point on the flywheel and give it your first deliberate push. A keystone is the central stone in an arch that holds all the others in place. A keystone decision is a single choice that, once made and acted upon, begins a chain reaction that makes other positive changes easier. Your commencement, your true beginning, is not a 10-year plan. It is one decision made today and honored tomorrow. What could that decision be? Let me offer you a few possibilities. Perhaps your first push is on the pillar of philosophy. Your keystone decision could be to purchase one book we have talked about today, just one, and to read 10 pages of it tonight before you go to sleep. That is all. You are not committing to becoming a great scholar. You are simply deciding to plant one new seed in the garden of your mind. Perhaps your first push is on the pillar of attitude. Your keystone decision could be to take out a piece of paper right after this and write down 10 things you are genuinely grateful for. And then tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, to do it again. You are not trying to become a guru of positivity. You are simply training your brain for a few minutes a day to scan for the good. Perhaps your first push is on the pillar of activity. Your keystone decision could be to put on your shoes and go for a 15-minute walk, not a marathon. A walk. Or to make one extra phone call you've been avoiding. Or to turn off the television 30 minutes earlier tonight. You are not committing to a life of heroic effort. You are simply proving to yourself that you can be disciplined for one small block of time. Or perhaps your first push is on the pillar of results. Your keystone decision could be to schedule 15 minutes in your calendar for this weekend to sit down and to look at just one area of your life with total honesty. Your finances, your health. One business metric. You are not committing to solving all your problems. You are simply committing to the courageous act of looking in the mirror. Do you see the power in this? Any one of these actions is small, it is achievable, it is not intimidating, but it is a push, it is a declaration, it is the first turn of the great flywheel. And once it moves an inch, moving it the next inch becomes just a little bit easier. This is your mandate. This is your call to action. Do not leave here today with a head full of ideas and a heart full of inspiration, only to allow it all to dissipate into the gravity of your old routines. You must anchor this knowledge with an immediate physical action. Choose your keystone decision now. And as you leave here today to begin this commencement, I want you to consider the ultimate stakes. For this is not just a game of personal achievement, it is a game of legacy. There are two legacies you can leave behind. There is the legacy of the life by default. It is the story of a person who was given a great gift, the gift of potential, and who returned it to the Creator unopened. It is the legacy of the unwritten book, the unsung song, the unbuilt enterprise, the unspoken love. It is a cautionary tale whispered in the winds, a story of what might have been, or there is the legacy of the life by design. It is the story of a person who took the raw, uncarved block of their own potential and dared to become a sculptor. It is the legacy of a person who faced the winters of their life and used them to grow stronger. It is the story of someone who, through their own effort and their own design, built a life of not just success but of value. A life that became a lighthouse for others navigating in the fog. A masterpiece that, long after the artist is gone, continues to inspire. That is the choice that stands before you. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. It has been my profound honor to share these ideas with you. I have given you the best of what I have learned. Now the rest is up to you. The tools are in your hands. The marble of your life is waiting. Begin the sculpture. If you are committed to this lifelong journey, I invite you one last time to subscribe to this channel. Our study has only just begun. Join us as we continue to explore the art and science of a life by design.